The NASCAR Peak Avery Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 of Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down the super stretch going into turn 2. And now the 93, 39, the 3 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. This will be the race to the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can rip it back to the start-finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go. As you love it,
here we go.
You love it. The 1 gets around, the 5 gets around. Big jump.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the third round of the 2014 iRacing.com IndyCar Road Championship powered by iRaceForLife.org. Will Vincent along with Joshua Chin here in the booth. Don't forget you can follow me at Will Vincent, also Facebook.com/I am Will Vincent as well. We're going to go right ahead and run through your starting grid for this event. And starting on pole position today will be Marcus Hamilton, qualifying time of 1 minute 20.142. Sebastian Job will line up alongside him in that front row of the grid. Richard Avery and Christian Tanahato will be lining up in row number 2. Then row number 3, Frank Levette the 4th and Frank Reddick Evers. Row number 4, Alexander Vob, Fabio Gonzalez. Row 5, Christian Filozuc and Gold Gurez. Then Julian Ligo, Matt Polinsky in row number 6. Rest of qualifying coming up on your screen. Very quickly, Josh, before these guys get ready to go green flag racing here at Montreal. This is possibly one of the most technically difficult tracks there is for these guys to deal with all season long.
Yeah, other than maybe Sonoma next week, this is definitely one of the hardest tracks to drive. I know that the practice I've gotten this week was not enough, and I didn't feel comfortable racing. Got home, and I think I made a good call because it's going to be a fun race to watch, but it's not going to be a fun race to drive.
As you can see, the cars working themselves right now down the back straight away. Very short pace lap here at the Circuit de Gilbert. Pace car is in. The third round of the championship will start right now. Really good start there by your pole sitter Hamilton as they come down towards turn number 1 for the first time. You can see all the cars behind are trying to get themselves down into that first corner. A little bit of a lock up by one of the guys from the field, but Chin, it looks as though everyone is through those first couple of corners without too much incident.
Yeah, Sebastian got caught a little off guard by the start point for Marcus, so he was able to get it out a little ways, but Sebastian's reeling Marcus back in as they come in through this second chicane.
And you see the cars are working themselves now on the back end of the racetrack. There is your race leader, Marcus Hamilton, who continues to lead the way here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, but Sebastian Job is right behind him as they work themselves now out of that second chicane down towards the hairpin for lap number 1. Gonna look on board with Job as he's mighty close. Gonna look to the outside as they come down into that hairpin, and you can see your top 4 drivers is a little bit further back. You have got Christian in that 2 car very close now as they work themselves down towards that final chicane. The fabled War of the Champions as relied on board right now, coming down into that final chicane. And right now, you say with 31 laps of this race still to go, Christian Tanahato running in that 4th position. That final chicane though, Chin, it is mighty difficult for those drivers. They've got to be so careful.
Yeah, we just saw it there with Sebastian and Marcus. Marcus went ahead and just let off to let Sebastian through. It's really difficult to take even single file, and double file through there will not work. Someone is going to crash.
And you see that Job has actually been able to get himself now to the race lead. There is your gap between himself and Marcus Hamilton. It is about 0.6 of a second on the racetrack as it stands right now. Job is leading the way. Hamilton is in second position. Then it is Richard Avery currently running himself in 3rd place on the racetrack. And then 4th is Christian Tanahote. And then to round out your top 5, you have got Frederick Evers running himself in that 5th place right now. Everyone is through those first laps without incident. All 21 cars are still scored on the lead lap, but this is one of the longest races these guys will see all season long. It is all about managing your car. And one of the things we have seen in practice, Josh, is that quite a lot of drivers are struggling for grip midway through a run.
Yeah, once everyone gets through the first about 5 laps or so, the cars are handling fine, but once you get to that lap 5 mark, the tires really start falling off. And it's going to be a matter of who can just keep the tires under them and keep the race consistent. Raw speed doesn't matter so much here when you can just keep it on the track, keep it between the lines.
Having a look at Richard Avery, because he is right behind your P2 driver of Hamilton right now as they work themselves out of that 2nd corner down towards the 1st chicane. Now, Avery hasn't had too bad of a start to the run in this race, running himself in that 3rd position, but I think he's going to be one of those drivers here today. We've seen all season from him, Josh, that he's been very good as far as tyre management goes. If he can keep that up today, I think he could be in a shot of potentially taking that 2nd place away, potentially even a little bit more.
Yeah, he doesn't quite have the speed that Sebastian does, but he's right on pace with Marcus, and I think through the race, tire conservation is going to really play into his hand. I don't know how well it's going to work out against Sebastian, but if he can get around Marcus and just sit there and conserve, he'll have a really good shot at winning the race.
And there you see, almost running into the rear there, as they came down into the Ile Notre Dame hairpin. This is that battle for 2nd position. Avery is looking very fast right now. We're right back along board with him, because here he is. And there you see, Avery just going past. A little bit of push to pass, I think, in play there, Josh.
I think so. I think he's also a little bit lower downforce than Marcus or any of the friction racing cars are. He was almost 190 miles an hour at the end of the backstretch. That's incredible speed. I haven't seen that out of many people.
So now it is Avery up into your 2nd position. There he is, as we're going to have a look from the rear of his car, as we're now working ourselves with 28 laps to go here at the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. And there we are, having a look from Richard Avery from the rear. The gap is now 6 tenths of a second between Avery running in that 2nd place and Marcus Hamilton right now running in that 3rd position. A little bit down the pack, you have got some good racing right now. We're going to check in with Carlo Labatti running himself in that P14 position. And he's on a train of cars that's got Esteban Stifel and John Elliott in it. Now, even in this mid-pack, it is incredibly close racing right now, Josh.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but Sebastian just got loose out of that 2nd chicane and just let Avery through the lead. But there's racing going on all over, even mid-pack with Carlo and those guys. It's just, there's always action there. There's so many straightaways you can get a draft off someone.
And we're going to have a look to see exactly what happened there with Josh. You just saw it on your screen. That allowed Richard Avery to have a look down to the inside, and he was able to get that race lead away. Let's get one more look at that as we'll have a look on board with Sebastian Job. So here it is, coming down. This is turn number 5 on the racetrack. You see nicely onto the gas as he comes into 6. Then that car just gets loose on him, and now you'll see to your left-hand side will go Richard Avery, and that will put him up into the race lead. Avery now just coming on the left-hand side of your screen. There we are, job done. Nice, easy pass there for Richard Avery, making the most of that situation with Sebastian Job.
Yeah, that corner Sebastian almost lost it. It's really, really difficult to get a good exit there and not have the car want to come around on you, and that was a good save to not end the race right there and be able to keep running in 2nd. It's going to be difficult for him to get around Richard, though, with the speed advantage that Avery has on the straightaways. So then, as the ticket runs across the top of your screen, Richard Avery is now your race leader. He is your 3rd race leader today. Sebastian Job runs himself in 2nd position. Marcus Hamilton, started 1st, is now running in the 3rd spot. Then Christian Tanahote is running in 4th. Frank Evers rounds out your top 5. There you see him on your screen. Frank Levesque in 6th, and then it's Alexander Vob in 7th. Fabio Gonzalez in 8th. Christian Thilo Zutz in 9th, and then rounding out your top 10 is Julian Aligo. To give you an update, we have one driver, we believe,
believe, who is going to be classified as... No, everyone is still running in this racetrack, so all 21 cars are running. There's a guy scored in your last place right now. That is Robert Pagani in that number 10 car, running at the rear of the field. Now, Josh, these guys have 10 uses of the push to pass during the course of this race. Drivers are going to have to be very careful with these long straightaways as to when they are going to use them.
Yeah, it's very interesting using the push to pass in this car, because you'd think that the straight line advantage would be huge on a long straightaway, but actually it's not as beneficial, because as you use push to pass and you're at the end of the straightaway, you almost hit an arrow wall to where the speed advantage is so minimal that you might as well have not used it there. So a lot of these shorter straightaways, like the run up from 1 and 2 to 3 or something like that, is where you can really get an advantage on someone, but they're not good passing spots. So you really just have to pick your spots and know if you can get around someone before you use the push to pass.
And as you can see, your field continuing to circulate here at the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. Christian is making a move right now on Marcus Hamilton. He'll go down into the inside, into the hairpin, and it looks as though we are going to get Tanahote up into the 3rd place, Hamilton down into 4th. He has not had a good start to this race at all, has Marcus Hamilton. Qualified for this race in pole position, now is scored all the way down in the 4th place on the racetrack. It does look as though he is going to try and make a move back. Not going to be close enough to do so as they come down into that final chicane, Josh.
I think Marcus is just running too much downforce, and he's getting killed down these straightaways. He's got really good cornering speed, but the problem is that's not where you make up your time here. Just kind of survive through the corners and make it back up on the straightaways, and he's just losing way too much time.
So it is now going to be Tanahote up into the 3rd place on the racetrack. Your race leader, by the way, Richard Avery, ever since he's been able to get this race lead, he has started to drive away with this race. Gap right now is 2.6 seconds on the racetrack between himself and Sebastian Job. As we have a look, last time it was a 1 minute 22.069 for Richard Avery. Just 2 tenths of a second off of his fastest lap of the race. You compare that to Sebastian Job's last lap time, a 1:22.7. Potentially, though, Josh, it could be Job trying to save his tyres a little bit later on in this run.
It could be. I don't really know how the downforce levels are working out with tire wear, but it just seems like anyone behind Avery right now isn't really pushing it that hard and really running those really quick times we've seen in practice. And we're past that lap 5 mark where we're going to see the tires start to fall off more and more. So I think we might see Avery drop back to the field here, but it's going to be hard for anyone to pass him.
I was having a look, battle right now between P9 and P10. This is Alexander Vob and Julian Aligo, and it is going to be Aligo moving himself up into 9th place on the racetrack. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to step aside for just 1 moment, and then we'll be right back here from the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. You're watching the 3rd round of the championship right here on RaceSpotTV. Stick with us. We will be right back. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to continuing coverage here from the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve of the third round of the 2014 Season 3 IndyCar Road Course Championship. And to have a look through your top 5 right now, it is that guy, Richard Avery, who continues to lead the way. The gap between himself and Sebastian Job is now up to 4 seconds on the racetrack. Job, in turn, there you can see just at the rear of your screen, he has got himself a 1 second gap right now over Christian Tanahote, running in that 3rd position. Marcus Hamilton running in 4th, and then it's Frederick Evers rounding out your top 5. All of the guys are still scored running on the racetrack right now. But Josh, having a little bit of a look down towards the rear of this top 10, Alexander Vob and Gold Gurez, they're having themselves a great little scrap right now.
Yeah, there's been a lot of battling. They've been exchanging spots a couple of times, and right now it's Joel ahead of Julian, but I'm pretty sure that's going to change again in the next couple laps as Julian's closing back up to the back of Joel.
As we're having a look on board with that number 5 car of Gold Gurez, working themselves down into that first chicane. Now, you'll notice as we stay on board for the next couple of corners, this is where things gets really tricky. And this is that place on the racetrack where Sebastian Job lost it. Just how difficult is this section of the racetrack, Josh?
It's really tough because you want to get back on the gas as hard as you can, but you still have the wheel in it, so the car is going to want to snap to the right. And then this chicane is probably... all the chicanes are really difficult, but this one especially so because you really have to be precise with how much you use the curbs and those raised curbs, because if you hit them too much, you'll bounce off the track.
As you see, the cars now working themselves down into the hairpin. To give you an update, by the way, on the lap times for your race leader. Now, last time by, Richard Avery did a 1 minute 22.0. Sebastian Job, a 1 minute 22.8. Then a 1 minute 23.5 for Christian Tanahote, running in that 3rd position. Marcus Hamilton, a 1 minute 22.8. And then Frederick Evers, a 1:23.2. So potentially a number of different strategies are going on right now, Josh, especially for Richard Avery. He could be on pit road a lot sooner than we previously expected.
Yeah, I almost have to wonder if there's a little bit of fuel strategy variation where people aren't starting out on full tanks. They're maybe trying to just run hard both stints instead of just running hard the final stint on lower fuel.
As we're riding on board with Avery down into that difficult second chicane. This is what Josh was talking about just 1 moment ago. And you can see Avery having to be very careful. That sausage curb on the outside can really upset your car. Both chicanes number 2 and 3, of course. The 3rd chicane, you hit that curb there, then potentially it's going to be game over as you hit that fabled War of the Champions.
Yeah, it's a problem we never really had with the old car, but this car, it seems like a lot stiffer chassis, and the suspension is a little bit more stiff the way we have to set up to run quick. So anytime you hit a curb or even bumps, the car will just kind of pogo along, and unless you have everything set up perfectly right, really have to be wary of where you drive to not have the car pogo away from you.
As we're having a look from the rear of Sebastian Job, there you see the gap between himself and Christian Tanahote. It's about 0.4 of a second on the racetrack right now as they work themselves back down into turn number 1, working ourselves on lap number 12 of 31 here at the Montreal Circuit, Notre Dame Circuit, Gilles Villeneuve even here. And there you see the gap continuing on at your screen. I'm really impressed though by some of these mid-pack battles. We talked about Gold Gurez, also worth noting Julian Aligo in that mix. And also you got Frank Levesque the 4th. We're going to ride along board with him for just 1 moment's time, because he is putting pressure right now on Frederick Evers in that battle to get himself into the top 5. And last time by, the two pretty much matched on their last lap. I do note, however, that Frank Levesque was 4 tenths faster in his fastest lap of the race so far.
Yeah, a little bit of a battle here between the friction guys, and something to notice about Joel, he's driving one-handed. He had a, I believe, a shoulder injury a couple weeks ago, so he's been driving one-handed this season. Hats off to him for being able to run as well as he has one-handed. I can't run that well with 2 hands this season, so...
As we're having a look actually on board with Gold Gurez from the ring, you see Aligo almost did try to stick it down to the inside as they work themselves down this back straightaway. Now we talk about how push to pass can be important. This is one of those chances where you might try and set a car up, and here goes down to the inside. Julian Aligo is going to go storming down that inside, and he will make that pass down into the final chicane, but he runs wide.
Chicane, though.
And that is
and
going
he's gonna
to be...
have to give up time.
big penalty there for Aligo. Now, of course, we saw that back in last year in the Race of Champions when one of the Sturgis brothers, I believe, lost himself 4 places at the end of the race. You do not want to lose time in that final chicane because it's such a short run to the flag in turn number 1 that it's very difficult to do what you do at a track like Daytona, for example, on the road course. Just let off the gas a little bit, and it really hurt Aligo there. Not only did he lose himself some time on the racetrack, he also actually lost himself about 2 seconds to Golguez, his fellow Frenchman.
Yeah, the cut penalty is a lot more than anything you gain, so you really want to make sure you don't cut these chicanes. It's a huge penalty, and it's really not worth the time. And see here, he's getting a little loose with the second chicane, and I think he's upset the car's handling slightly going over that curb. Sebastian Job's out now.
Yeah, Sebastian Job, we're keeping an eye out. Sebastian Job is classified on our timing screens as out of the race. So something has happened to Sebastian Job. We have had a couple of people, you just saw on your screen, coming down onto pit road. They are Christian Tullo-Zuk, Alexander Vob, Istvan Stiefel, and also Timo Volukne. But Sebastian Job, breaking news, is classified right now on our timing and scoring as being out of the race. Now, we're not quite sure exactly what's happened to him. We'll try and get yourselves an update of that one as soon as we can, as we ride on board the guy now running in 3rd place overall. That is Christian Tanahote, as he works himself down into that first chicane once again. Now, Tanahote has been so good this season. Does look as though that he's struggling right now in that battle with his teammate Marcus Hamilton in that battle for T2. And whilst that's going on, Richard Avery is just driving away on the racetrack right now.
Yeah, I think Avery has this race pretty well figured out. Apparently, Joe wrecked out in the final corner, for what I'm hearing. Haven't seen a replay yet, but it's really unfortunate for the Apex Racing driver. It's a little bit of a friction domination now, other than P1 and Avery.
Yeah, we're going to see if we can try and get ourselves a replay to see what happened to Sebastian Job. This may or may not work, but this is Sebastian Job. We say this would be down into the final corner. Let's see if we can see anything happen to him. He loses it on corner entry, straight into the wall of the champions there. Now, he locked that one up under braking, and that's not something you get to see very often, as we're going to have another look on board this time with Sebastian Job down into that final chicane.
I think what he did was he overshot his brake point and tried turning in to make sure that he didn't get that cut penalty, and it just snapped the back end of the car around. It was too late at that point.
As we're now riding on board with Marcus Hamilton, he's running in P2. There's a gap in front of him, and you can see he's now got a gap behind him as well, as he has had his teammate pitting on the racetrack. So we'll see whether we can get confirmation to see where Christian is, but there you see him on pit road right now, coming back out onto the racetrack. Pit stop time for him, and 9.3 seconds, pretty much even to halfway in the race here, and very lucky for him, he was able to come out just ahead of a little bit of traffic. Is he going to make the corner? The answer to that is yes. That is very lucky there for Christian.
Yeah, he came out at a pretty awkward spot, but he got a little bit of a break there with Patrick Raymond letting him go. And I think that's going to work out fairly well. As long as he doesn't catch Ivan and Marcel too quickly ahead of him, he should be able to make up a little bit of time on Marcus.
And of course, these first couple of laps are the fastest in these cars with this tyre compound. So Christian, if he can use a couple of pieces to push the pass on these long straightaways, make sure he doesn't get involved in traffic too much. He could be in a good position of trying to leapfrog, as we are keeping an eye on course on this guy, your race leader, Richard Avery, now have a 9.9 second gap over Marcus Hamilton in that battle for the race lead. And we're getting word that Marcus Hamilton might be due on pit road in the next couple of laps or so. Richard Avery, we have to say, we expected Avery to be one of the first people onto pit road. What he's actually done is just been absolutely dominant, leading this race from the front, and he's been doing lap times that no one else has been able to do in this race so far, Josh.
Yeah, I don't think this is something that we really expected to see with the way the first couple weeks of the season have gone, where no one's really broken away from the field. But today, Avery has just put himself ahead of everyone by a mile, and I'm honestly kind of surprised by this.
Ivan Sol just making his pit stop. He will be coming back out and away onto the racetrack, because there you see high above here from the circuit, Gilles Villeneuve, and there's confirmation Ivan Sal, who'll be classified in the 19th position overall. He's going to come back out onto the racetrack after making his one and only stop in this event so far. But there is your race leader working himself down the back straightaway. Question's going to be, will he come to pit road? Yes, he is. So your race leader, sorry, that's Marcus Hamilton onto pit road, not your race leader, Richard Avery, but your race leader is a second place driver. Marcus Hamilton is onto pit road, Josh.
Yeah, this will be a very important stop. Make sure that he got to pit speed before the pit lane. Speeding penalty is really costly here with how long this extended pit road is for the NASCAR configuration. So, want to make sure you got pit road speed, and then just hope that the crew gets a good stop.
So here's Hamilton then going to make his one and only pit stop. It's going to be about a 9-second, maybe 10 seconds, so 8.4 seconds out and away there for Marcus Hamilton. He'll come back out in the 7th place. Is there going to be anyone around him? The answer to that one is no. And importantly, he has got ahead of his teammates in that number 1 car, able to do something there in that lap and a half or so between pit stops. Good job there by Marcus Hamilton.
Yeah, I think he pitted early enough that it mitigated any short pit advantage that Christian was going to get, and got a really good in-lap and about to have a good out-lap, so that really helped him. It's still not much of a gap, but it's just enough.
It is, as we're keeping our eye out on Richard Avery. We are getting word. There he is. He's onto pit road. So your race leader is onto pit road. However, this is just really going for the motions now, you have to say, for Richard Avery, because he's led pretty much ever since he made that barnstorming pass on Sebastian Job, because he made that pass down the back straightaway to get himself into 2nd place earlier. Just being fantastic in this race so far. Looking on board as he comes onto pit stop, going to get himself 4 fresh tyre shots, top himself off with race fuel, and he will be back out and away for the remaining 13 laps of this event.
Yeah, he's in honestly the best position of anyone in this race. He's got what looks to be the fastest car. He has a huge straight line advantage that he can use and just kind of cruise. He doesn't have to push it to get around someone. He can just sit behind them in the corner and wait to the straightaway and just blow their doors off. He doesn't have to do work in the corners, which is a huge advantage. Everyone else with the higher downforce, they have to make their time through the corners, which is really difficult here because all it is chicanes and a hairpin.
And to let you know, this guy is classified temporarily as your race leader, our 4th different leader of the day. Raul Gurez there in that number 5 target machine. 2nd place right now is going to be Julian Aligo, 1.82 seconds. It is on the racetrack as here comes Gurez down through the Il Notre Dame hairpin. And there is Aligo just in the background as well in that number 13 car. These two haven't yet made a pit stop as they're going to ride on board with this guy. Julian Aligo, let's see, gap to the race leader is about 1.8 seconds. Going to keep an eye ahead, and you can see your race leader is not coming onto pit road. Neither is Aligo. These two are going very deep into their first run, Josh.
Yeah, I think what they did was they ran a full tank this first stint, and they're going to run a very, very low fuel second stint. And it might help them gain a couple spots. Julian got a lot of that curb there and almost pogoed away. But if they can make that second stint really, really quick, it might help them gain a couple spots, but it's going to be interesting to see where they come out of pit road as opposed to everyone else they were racing before around the top 10.
So there's your gap between P1, P2. P2 to P3 is 4 seconds on the racetrack. As there you see Richard Avery, he will inherit the race lead after those top 2 drivers make their pit stop. Gap between Avery and Hamilton, 8.2 seconds on the racetrack. Then Hamilton to his teammate Tanahote is just 0.6 of a second as it stands on the racetrack right now. And between those 2 drivers, it is mighty, mighty close. This one is not going to be over. And Josh, this one could very easily come down to who uses that push to pass as the best.
Yeah, I don't really know how many pushes these guys have stored in the tank, but it's going to be interesting. It's a strategy game as much as it is a racing game with the push to pass and play in this car. And even still, you can get around someone without the push to pass. The draft in this car is so huge that if you are within maybe 5-6 tenths of someone, you will get around them on a straightaway.
And it does look as though that Aligo is coming down onto pit road from P2. So there you see Julian Aligo going to give up that 2nd place in that Oculus car. Number 13 machine going to make his one and only pit stop as he completes his 19th tour around this racetrack. And Aligo, he might lose out a little bit here. It's a risky strategy for him, but it's one that I think, considering his position, he had to kind of make there, Josh.
Yeah, you can't run the same strategy that everyone else when you're all the way back there, so you might as well try something different. If you can run a little bit heavier on fuel, make up some spots, and then see where you come out. I think he's going to come out about the same spot as he was before, but he's going to be on lower fuel with fresh tires. So he's going to have a speed advantage on everyone ahead of him. There's a little bit of time gap, but we'll see how that one plays out.
Yeah, I'm just having a look. He's coming out in 10th place. That's about the place that he came in before the sequence of pit stops started. So overall, not lost anything, not necessarily gained anything, but this guy is classified still as your race leader. We're right on board with him. Golgers, we expect him to come onto pit road this time by with 20 laps scored complete. Will that number 5 car go straight on onto pit road? We're going to find out any moment now. The answer seems to be yes, he does. Overshoots the corner, straight onto pit road. That's a good thing about this racetrack, Josh. You can very easily tell when a car is coming into the pits.
Yeah, as long as you're not around anyone else and you plow through them into pit road, then it's a really easy pit entry. You just want to make sure you don't have anyone ahead of you. I've seen a couple times in races where someone's just went to go to pit entry, didn't realize the car ahead of them was slowing up so much, and ran into them, and there went both races.
So there you see Guez is making his pit stop. Avery has already gone way past. Pit stop time, 7.3 seconds there for Guez. Let's keep an eye out on Aligo. You can see him just there at the rear of your screen now. Aligo will have the longer way through turn number 1, but there you see, mighty close between them, but Aligo is not able to get the job done there. And there you can see the gap ahead. So Guez does beat Aligo out of pit road. It's about that same 1 second gap that we had before these two guys came onto pit road, but this guy once again is classified as your race leader. It's Richard Avery with an 8.5 second gap over Marcus Hamilton. Avery has looked untouchable in this race so far, Josh.
Yeah, this is his race to lose at this point. It's ever since he got around Marcus for second, it was really about his race to lose, and Sebastian out now, it's really just cruising and making sure that you keep all 4 wheels on the car and on the track.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, tomorrow the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series returns to the circuit. It's Spa-Francorchamps, and it'll be here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live. Join drivers of 44 laps around one of the most historic Grand Prix circuits in history. It's the 12th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. It's right here on RaceSpotTV. Start time will be 1:30 p.m. GMT for qualifying. The race will start at 2:10 GMT. So then, let's run very quickly through your field. Your top 2 drivers are Richard Avery to Marcus Hamilton. 8.7 seconds, the gap between those two. But then you have a look back to P2, P3. The gap between those drivers, Josh, is just 1 second on the racetrack. Hamilton has, however, been able to pick out a bit of a gap over Christian Tanahote these last couple of laps or so.
Yeah, I think Marcus is finally really starting to get into a rhythm, and is starting to pull away from his teammate now. Just ran his fastest lap of the race last time by, about 5-6 tenths quicker than Christian. So he can start to open up the gap once he leaves Christian out of the draft.
Christian is up 1 place since the drop of the green flag here today. His fastest lap time of 1:21.864. Got himself a 6 second gap over Christian Thilo Zook right now, who runs himself in the 4th position. I have to say, we haven't talked much about Zook at all. As there you see him coming into your shot. He's got about a half-second gap to Frank Levesque, the 4th, who's running in that 5th position. But you have to give credit there to Christian to ride on board with him, because he's just had an absolutely picture-perfect race, up 5 places since the drop of the green flag.
Yeah, he's running in 60 for the pit stops, and I guess somehow or another we missed that he jumped ahead of Frank and Frederick during the pit stop cycle, and all he's got to do is just sit there and hope that these guys don't get around. But he's run a really good race to move up. Oh, we got a little bit of hit there, but it's definitely a tough track to pass at, and to have made up 5-6 spots is pretty impressive.
As riding on board of Frank Levesque, the 5th, he runs right now in the 5th position on the racetrack. There you see the gap in front of him. And there you can see the gap behind him as well to Frederick Ivers, just 5/10 of a second on the racetrack. So Levesque is in a bit of a sandwich right now, running himself strongly in that 5th position in the racetrack. But those 3 cars all together are running mighty close right now.
Yeah, this is probably the closest battle on the track right now, especially between 3 cars. It's so tough to pass someone that you could get someone that's maybe 5, 6, 10 slower than you, but if you're not fast in the right spots, it's a really difficult track to pass at.
There you see your first battle, and then there you see your second battle going on right now between Golgari, Julian Aligo and Istvan Stefan. Now that one has come back together. Aligo is right back there in the mix, right along board with him, running himself in the 9th place overall. Just about half a second now to Golgari is ahead of him. He's been able to catch up those last couple of laps. And right now, Josh, it does look as though he's putting a lot of pressure on for P8. If he can get around Guez, he might have a chance of getting Vob before the end of this race as well.
Yeah, it's kind of curious to see, because before the pit stop, it was Joel that had the pace advantage on Julian, and now that's kind of flip-flopped after the pit stop. It's depending on who gets around who here, Julian could come out 2 spots ahead of where he's at now, but it's all a matter of if he can get around Joel first and then get up to Alexander, because right now it's proving really difficult for him to get around Joel.
And there you see the 2 battles will flick between them. Battle for P4, 5, 6 on the racetrack, and the battle for P7, 8 and 9. Very close battles on the racetrack. As there you can see your front group just working themselves there out of the hairpin, and there's your second group. You can just see at the rear of your screen as well. So mighty close racing between these 2 sets of drivers. As once again, we'll show you the battle for that first group, as Levesque does look as though he's going to try and line up a pass. Is he close enough into that final chicane? The answer is going to be no. Your second group, they are going to hold station as well. As you can see, a couple of drivers trying to break the draft now in these last couple of laps. The Vec there had Zurk just tried to that inside wall out of that final chicane just to try and break the draft. Now, you're not going to get many passing opportunities down into turn number 1, Josh, but it is still possible to make a pass, particularly if someone is a little bit slow out of that final chicane. We know how treacherous that chicane can be.
Yeah, we actually just, well, I think it was off camera, but Julian and Joel were both able to get around Alex, and the first pass was Joel getting into that chicane, and it slowed up Alex enough out of that chicane that allowed Julian to get around him on the front stretch into turn 1.
Yeah, as we saw that on your screen. We are going to get ourselves a replay, though, of that. That is going to come up on your screen right now. So this is Alexander Vob, and let's see whether we've got it in the right place. As we're having a look, in fact, we have just missed. There's the second pass happening right now, and that was with that 13 car getting past the 16. Let's get ourselves a replay of exactly what happened a little bit previously to that, as we're going to have a look now on board with Alexander Vob. And now you see, having a look from the rear, and you can see there comes that number 5 car down to the outside into that final chicane. Vob having to brake a little bit earlier, a little bit slow through the corner, clipping the curve just a little bit, not too much, but then that allowed this guy, the number 13 car, to pull alongside down into turn number 1. Picture perfect pass by both of those drivers, the guys who lost out 2 places in 1 lap. That was Alexander Vob, however, and Josh, always with this few laps left to go in this race, you'd never want to see that happening.
Yeah, losing 2 spots in the course of 3 or 4 turns is really tough. And now it's interesting because after Julian and Joel have gotten around that slower car, they're catching the 3 ahead of them, because Christian's a little off the pace and it's holding up Frank and Frederick. So we could have 5 cars battling for 4th place before the time this race is over.
Yeah, and let's keep an eye out on that. Last lap time, a 1:23.1 for Frank Evers at the rear of that train for Gold Courage. It was a 1:22.6, and they are catching. And if these 2 don't try and get into too much of a battle with each other, then that could be a fascinating battle towards the end of this race, as we're riding on board with Guez through the hairpin. Now, a little bit of a wiggle actually that time for Aligo, so that should take the pressure off Guez down this back straightaway, Josh.
Yeah, and that's going to give Joel a little bit of room. Frank and Fred just had a little bit of a coming together in the hairpin. Frank got a little loose entering and allowed Fred to get around him. So it's going to allow Joel to get up to them even more. So they really need to make sure that they get up to Christian and pass him. before Joel comes up to him.
Yeah, so let's have a look then to see what happened with Evers and Frank Levesque. So we're going to have a look at this one from onboard Levesque. This is coming down into the second chicane, so we have got a couple of moments to wait before this happens. You see, Levesque is going to come through that second chicane, just use a little bit of that sausage curb on either side. No real issues here. Now, we'll turn our 360 cam to the rear, and now you will see that number 11 car coming down into the hairpin, as we should get a look at it right now. Actually, Levesque just got himself loose into the entry of the corner. That Friction Racing teammate of his just got better traction out of the hairpin, and that's what happened there. But you're right, that's going to cost them very vital couple of tenths of a second. Unfortunately, we have just lost our picture, so stick with us for one moment. We will try and get that back as quickly as we can. There we are.
They almost came together in the hairpin again. Frank got loose entering again.
Yeah, and Frank is really struggling. Is actually going to ride on board with Levesque once again, because here we are, a potential pass for position, as there you see that number 5 car putting pressure on him. Will Levesque be able to hold on? You see round the outside, that 5 car will go down into that final chicane, using the curb contact there. Levesque gets spun around. The 13 car also involved. 3 car incident there down at the final chicane. Thankfully though, none of them actually hit the wall of champions, Josh.
Yeah, they all hit the inside wall. I've never seen 3 cars spin around quite like that. That's a new one.
Replay is up, by the way. Talk us through it.
In all of that, Frederick, I guess, had a little bit of rear wing damage and went to go brake for the chicane, fell a little loose, and just decided, well, I'm just going to take the slow down, and it ended up working out as all 3 cars behind him wrecked.
That, I think, I have to say, is some of the best synchronized spinning I have seen in quite a while there, Josh.
Yeah, I don't think you get 3 ballerinas to do something quite that synchronized. That was special.
And we're going to get one more look. This is, say, down into the final chicane. And 1, 2, 3, all clipping, all spinning at the same time. Couple of tags of the rear wall, all of them losing some positions. But that I have to say, was a moderately interesting spin there. Your race leader, by the way, remains Richard Avery, as we now just got 3 laps to go in this event. Don't forget as well, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow ISOWC IndyCar Series returns from the Milwaukee Mile, driving drivers for 225 laps around the oldest operating speedway in all of America. It is going to be the ISOWC Milwaukee Indy Fest. That'll be tomorrow from 6 p.m. GMT, 5 p.m. GMT. Only here on RaceSpotTV. There is your race leader. There's the gap behind him. Richard Avery to Marcus Hamilton. 11.4 seconds on the racetrack. We're riding on board now with Richard Avery. I don't think anyone expected this race to be that dominant a performance by one driver here, considering the cars we have in this race. Avery has just dominated this race. And we have to remember as well, he didn't start in pole position. He started in 3rd place here today and was a bit slow at that start.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at. I mean, granted, the qualifying times between the top 3, between Marcus, Sebastian, and Richard, it was a 300th of a second gap, so not much of a speed differential, but I think just taking it easy on the start and waiting for people to make mistakes is ultimately what has helped Richard get up in the lead and just hold it from here.
There you see P2 and P3 coming up on your screen. And then you see the gap as well from Tanahoto running in that 3rd position to Christian Zult, which is about 11.2 seconds on the racetrack right now. As there you can see Tanahoto in 3rd position, and there you can see Zult all the way at the back of your screen running in that 4th position. Then over a 3.5 second gap to Evers running himself in that 5th position. Evers to Vob just 0.8 of a second, then 1.2 seconds to Aligo, and then Gurus running himself in the 8th position. 9th place is Levesque, and then rounding out your top 10 right now is Esteban Steffel, who we haven't talked much about in this race so far today. Good job for all of these guys in the top 10. I have to say though that there are still a couple of battles that could still be decided in these last couple of moments. This is one of them that you see on your screen as we're riding on board very quickly with Alexander Vob running himself in that 6th position, gap between himself and Frederick Evers, just 0.6 of a second. If you have got any push to passes left, now is going to be the time to use them. As meanwhile, Richard Avery will come past start finish line. Ladies and gentlemen, the white flag is out. One more lap to go here at Montreal, but that battle with Vob, we'll turn our attention back to that. If you got any push to pass, now is that time to use it, Josh.
Yeah, if you have any save, there's plenty of straightaways for you to use it on, and at this point, Fred's got a little bit of rear wing damage, so his car's a little unstable under braking. So if you can really get up on him and just maybe peek a nose or something and just force him to go in a little tougher or a little harder in the braking than he has been, it can force a mistake and let you get around him. But you have to make sure you get up to him first, and you have to use a push to pass to get up there, I think.
Very quickly as well, checking in with the race with Interlink car, the number 21 machine of Marcel Modes running himself in the 16th position on the racetrack. Trying to catch up to the rear of Ivan Sol. Doesn't look as though he's going to be able to do anything on this tour of the racetrack, however, as they work themselves down towards that final chicane once again. But here is your race leader. It is Richard Avery. He's been absolutely dominant in this race. We'll ride along board with him for this final straightaway as he comes down into that final chicane for the final time. Richard Avery absolutely dominant here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, coming down into that final chicane for the final time. He will take victory here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Richard Avery is your race winner.
The battle for 5th, 6th, and 7th is still on. Oh, there goes Julian. Okay, 6 is out of his reach now.
As we've also got, actually, something's happened in this final lap. It's coming up as though Christian Tanahote is scored in our 2nd place overall. We are going to get confirmation of this in a moment, because we do believe that Marcus Hamilton should be classified in the 2nd place. We'll get confirmation of this in just 1 moment's time, because Hamilton has completed the race. However, here, just keep an eye out on our last couple of drivers as they all come past the start-finish line. But overall, that battle, Vob, Aligo, Guez, and Levesque, not much to report there in that final lap of the race. Everyone able to finish this race without much incident. Overall, not a bad race here today.
Yeah, right at the line, Carlo Labate got around Istvan. Istvan had a little bit of a, couple moments in that final chicane and was able to get around him. But yeah, it was a very interesting race. I don't think anyone really saw that coming in the day. I think a lot of people expected maybe Marcus and Sebastian run away. Sebastian had his mistake, and Avery was blitzing the field before that.
So we're just going to get a look at that moment that Josh was just talking about 1 moment ago. We are going to ride along board with Carlo Labate. As you see, he's trying to work to get one final position in the dying moments of this race. And here you can see, coming down into the final chicane, going to be the last of the late breakers, Labate. The car ahead of him, actually, Steffel, getting himself very loose. And then I think he might have got himself a slowdown penalty as well, but Labate, in that Supernova Racing team, was able to get ahead of Istvan Steffel. So that's what happened there in that final moment of the race. But overall, for Richard Avery, it is an absolute dominant victory here today at the Montreal circuit, leading 26 of the laps in this event. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is we're going to step aside for just 1 moment, in just 1 moment's time. But before we do that, let's have a look through your top 10, as it is Richard Avery who takes victory from Marcus Hamilton. P2, 11.8 seconds behind. Christian Tanahote in the 3rd place. Christian Theo Zulk in 4th. Frederick Evers in the 5th position. Alexander Vob in 6th. Virginia Ligo. Goyle Guez. Frank Levesque the 4th. Carlo Labate rounds out your top 10. We'll step aside for just 1 moment and we will be right back.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos and danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. Sure, they've got the most accurate tracks and realistic cars out there, but that's just the start. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race. so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight, and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all are kept in the pits. Not to mention that with over 45,000 active members already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in on the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
So, ladies and gentlemen, confirmation of your final results. Richard Avery then taking victory by almost 12 seconds over Marcus Hamilton here at the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. Christian Tanahote coming home in the third place. Christian Theo Zulk in fourth. Frederick Evers in fifth. Alexander Vob in sixth. Junior Aligo, Dolguez, Frank Levette the fourth, and Carlo Labatti round out your top 10. Then Istvan Stiffel, Matt Polinsky, John Alliott, Timo Velucci, Ivan Sol, Marcel Moles, and Patrick Raymond, Nathan Gruden, Robert Bigorni, and Fabio Gonzalez round out your top 20. And then final place, Sebastian Job, 20 laps down. Our only retiree out of this race. Does that surprise you at all, Josh?
A little bit, yeah, because I think a lot of us went into this week with the expectation that it was going to be a high attrition race, and ultimately we only saw one retiree from any kind of on-track incident, and unfortunately Fabio Gonzalez had a graphics driver crash, but otherwise everyone pretty much ran a really clean race.
So we're just going to get your top 10 back up on your screen. Who's your standout driver of the day, though?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm going to have to go with Christian Zuch on this one. He started 9th and finished all the way up in 4th and really had a solid race. No real incidents of note, and just was able to run a nice, solid race.
But you cannot take anything away from Richard Avery, though. He's led the most laps here today, had to pass some cars to get to that point. Himself, absolutely stellar performance.
Definitely, by far the standout of the race. Fastest lap by 2/10, average lap 4/10 quicker than anyone else. No incidents, led all but 5 laps after starting from 3rd, and a really big points day for him. It's going to help him in the championship massively.
And where do we go next week, Josh?
Sonoma. Hopefully I will be able to run that week instead of this week, but Sonoma's a really technical track, but it takes rhythm too. It's very odd that it's technical, but it's so rhythm based as well, and it's a really fun track once you get to know it. I know a lot of people don't like it because of how difficult it is, but give it a try. It's a really fun track, guys.
That'll be in 1 week's time, same place here on RaceSpotTV. It's time for me to do my little waving thing and say goodbye to all of you people. Thank you very much for being a part of our coverage here today. And for those very observant of you, there is a reason why I have got cling film wrapped around me, new tattoo. But don't forget that you can join us tomorrow for 2 races. First one of them is the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. That'll be here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. Coverage of that will start at 1:30 PM GMT for qualifying. Then we'll have all the race itself, 44 laps around the, Josh, famous Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps.
One of the most legendary tracks in the world. Probably top 3 or 4 tracks on my own personal list. It's almost the Daytona road courses, in that if you know how to drive, you can do well there. It's not overly demanding, but you have to make sure you get it right.
And also, don't forget, we've got ISOWC competition heading over from the Milwaukee Mile as well. That will be at 5 PM GMT, again, here on RaceSpotTV. If you like the race today, don't forget, there we are. Like the video, subscribe to us here on RaceSpotTV. And if you really like what we do, see that, it's a Starbucks Club. Buy me a Starbucks. I'll be really thankful. But thank you very much for myself, Will Vincent, and Joshua Chin. This has been coverage of the third round of the championship here from the Montreal circuit. We will see you all in 1 week's time, unless you want to check us out tomorrow on iRacing Live and RaceSpotTV. Thank you very much for being a part of our coverage. We will talk to you all next time. Bye-bye.